Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
When we tend to think about great relationships, we tend to describe them in glowing terms of camaraderie, being agreeable on things, and really never-ending what I'll call positive vibes. But the reality is that there are no such relationships. I like to use my dog as an example. Pick on Josie. We weren't looking to adopt a dog. But back in the spring of 2016, I believe it was, 2016, my daughter was a senior. We had a dog. We had a dog for a lot of years, a 17-year-old dog, and she passed away in 2011. And we were like, okay, we had a dog, and we were kind of done with it. But then my daughter, saw that there was a dog up for adoption, just a puppy, that looked much like the one that we had. And my daughter's high school, at the time where she was in high school, she was a senior at the time, was right around the corner from the pet shelter. So within 45 minutes, there were 4 or 5 of us, well, 4 for sure, that were descending upon the pet shelter to grab this dog. And we did. And her name is Josie. And Josie's been great. Josie's a great dog. When I come home, if I've had a bad day, Josie's there waiting, tail wagging. If I've had a good day, she's there with her tail wagging. She's somewhat obedient. She knows a lot of tricks. She can roll over. She can sit. She can shake. She'll sit. She'll stay. She won't touch her food until she's released, and there are a lot of neat things about her. And when we're watching TV, she'll get up on the couch and lay down next to us and generally take a nap, unless it's a show with animals in it, and then somehow or another she likes to watch. I say that, but Josie can also be an utter pain in the ass. Pardon my French. She can be a pain from time to time. Her and I and my wife go walking every day. We get her a good walk every day, and she's a handful on the leash. Oh my gosh, and rip my arm off. We live kind of in a wooded area, and then you'll run into, especially because we're up at dark 30, there are raccoons out, there are skunks. Oh my gosh, God forbid. Well, she has gotten hit by a skunk. It's horrible, and so there's a lot of just trying to get her to, just stay close. Don't do that. Don't grab that. Don't eat that. She'll just pick up things and eat them and then suffer. And so she's kind of a pain in the butt. And I use that as an example because, when we think of relationships as being marked by this ongoing camaraderie and 100% we're all on the same page and everything's wonderful, it's not reality. And obviously a dog relationship is not the same as a human relationship, but every relationship is very similar to, my relationship with my dog. There are parts that are really good and a lot of parts that are really good. And then there's the occasional where, okay, listen, this is not good. This is not, what's happening is not good. If you've been around me long enough, you've heard me say that God gave us a brain, and there's only one brain, and there's not a special compartment for business. So a lot of what I have gleaned as far as or learned as what are good relationships stems from the things that I have read about just relationships in general. People who have good personal relationships a lot of times have really good business relationships, and people who struggle with their personal relationships oftentimes struggle with their business relationships. They're very similar. And when I work with people from time to time and talk with them about the struggles they have in business, a lot of times what I will do is reflect back to their personal relationships and ask them, okay, in your personal relationships, would you do this, whatever this is? And a lot of times people will say yes or no, depending upon it. And we all have a good sense as to how to treat others in personal relationships. And I just say, well, you just need to kind of extrapolate that into your business relationships. And so getting back to the whole notion of my interaction with my dog is that with respect to relationships, every relationship is marked by disagreement, a degree of turmoil, if you will, and just the tension in our lives. We're not always in sync. And so really the test of a great relationship is not getting through around and over these little speed bumps, if you will. Um, but it's actually going through those speed bumps and being better for it because they're going to happen. You're going to have these situations where you you know things just aren't going well. And I won't get into detail with respect to my wife, but it, we've been married almost 30 years, and yeah, there have been speed bumps with my kids. Kids are great. There have been speed bumps. I have a number of franchisees and AmSpirit business connections, great people. There have been speed bumps. You just, you need to contend with them. Members in AmSpirit, speed bumps. Friends, there have been speed bumps. And it's almost at a point where when I come into a relationship, I'm a little nervous if it feels like it's just going along too well. It's almost like there's almost needs to be some imperfection for the relationship to be perfect, because that's the tension is part of what keeps it together, if you will. And so what I've started to do was really look at, not so much what the speed bumps are because they're different for everybody, but really kind of how to manage the speed bumps. And again, I look at personal relationships. How do we get through these particular speed bumps? There's a there's a great body of work out there. There is an individual who's kind of kind of an expert, if you will. I consider him an expert. His name's John Gottman, Gottman Institute, and he has devoted his career to really studying personal relationships, marital relationships in particular. And he has what's called the magic ratio. And the magic ratio is the ratio of positive interactions to negative interactions. And according to John Gottman, the the ratio is about 5 to 1. And what that means is that for every negative feeling or interaction, you need to strive to have about 5 positive feelings or interactions with whomever. It's not like anything. It's not a mathematical formula where it's always 5 to 1 and perfectly 5 to 1. Obviously not. Negative interactions can be horribly negative, in which case there probably needs to be a lot of positive interactions. And you can have some negative interactions, which are minor in nature, and maybe only 1 or 2 positive interactions will suffice. But there's a general ratio there that we need to try and adhere to. Um, and start to take a look at your relationships, and when you hit these speed bumps, you need to remind yourself that these are just part of a normal healthy relationship. And if you didn't have these speed bumps, well, I can't imagine a relationship not having speed bumps. I have a friend who he has walked away from relationships because they've just felt too good. Just he tells me, I'm just nervous about it. It's just too good. I just wonder when the shoe is going to drop, and it makes him uneasy. And so he's not like he's trying to create drama in his life, but if there's never any drama, it it's not a healthy relationship. So what we need to do, with respect to the speed bumps in our lives is not look to avoid them, but look to manage the time between speed bumps with positive interactions. So I want to spend some time here talking about some different sorts of positive interactions that we can have that can help us between speed bumps. And again, you want to have lots of positive interactions between the what I call speed bumps, these negative interactions. And I actually did some research and went to John Gottman's website, found a bunch of articles, and these are different things that he says, and these things certainly apply in your personal relationships, but they also apply in your business relationships as well. I have tend to when I practice law, some of my best clients were people I really enjoyed being around. And I like to think they enjoyed being around me. We would go to lunch, we'd have fun. I would learn about their families, they would learn about mine. Still in contact with many of those people. But first thing you can do to create positive interaction is to show interest in people. Pay attention to what they're saying. And when I say that, not always just tuning into business. Okay, I'm going to talk to this person and see what I can sell them. That's not you know that becomes transactional. And there's really a very, very blurry line between who we are in business and who we are personally when we're dealing with our professional relationships. A lot of the people I know that I have great professional relationships with, I tend to know a lot about them personally. And every call, every interaction, every Zoom, every meeting, every cup of coffee starts with, well, how's the family? How's this going? How's that going? And you can certainly say, well, that really kind of cuts into you know, into the positive end of things, and that's true. But that's just the nature of it. It's the nature of investing in the relationship. Certainly along those same lines, show care and concern. I tell people the best way to try and build relationships with people is to help people beyond what it is you sell. I mean, if you're giving people discounts, that's great. That's wonderful business. But if you're helping somebody outside of business, maybe referring to, someone to them, oh, you're looking for a great realtor. I know one that'll serve you well. Or you're looking for this or you're looking for that. I know people who can do that that can help you. It's not what I do, but I want to help you. That certainly goes a long way to kind of building those positive interactions. Being appreciative of people taking the time to have a conversation with you, even if you're the one helping them. Somebody coming to you advice, you can be appreciative of that. Thanks for confiding in me. Thanks for allowing me to be that person that you turn to in this time of need. So we can find the opportunity to be appreciative of people, even when we're really arguably the ones doing, doing the heavy lifting, doing the work. And it's just it's a kind of a glass is half full sort of a mindset. Uh, but those things are important to try and build these positive vibes, if you will, knowing that there's a speed bump out there for everybody. There's a speed bump out there, and you can't avoid them, or you shouldn't try to avoid them necessarily, because sometimes those speed bumps help us build better relationships. Um, Another thing from Gottman's work is listening, just listening to what people have going on. Everybody's got a struggle. It's everybody, everybody. There are people who are struggling with something, whatever it is, and then there are liars. I mean, I don't think there's anybody who doesn't have some sort of issue out that they're dealing with. I mean, they might be successful in business, but having issues with their kids. They might have a great home life, but struggling with business, or lots of other things between, a combination of those things. So taking the time and listening is certainly important. Be accepting of people. We're not all going to agree on everything, and that's okay. There's a lot of utility to agreeing to disagree, a ton of utility, especially in this highly charged political environment. Just to say, you know what, I don't agree with that, but I like you and I'm going to respect you and I'm going to try and understand your position. And we may never come to agree, but I've got your back. And you need help, I've got your back. I don't agree with you on this particular situation, but I've got your back. And I find that with most everybody I encounter, we have far more in common than we don't. But so be accepting of people. And then the last thing is lighten things up. You know, there are people who say, well, we shouldn't be joking around. You know what? I joke with everybody. Yeah, I take a risk. Sometimes that risk bites me. Um, but what I find is joking around, self deprecating humor, those sorts of things kind of bring me closer to people. It lightens the mood. We all need that. Business is hard. Um, and it just, it just makes things more pleasant, but it adds to that 5-to-1 ratio of positive interactions to that one speed bump that you're going to encounter here or there. So, you're going to have speed bumps in your relationships. It's inevitable. You're not going to have a relationship that's totally perfect. You're just not there. It's just that's not how it works. What you need to do is you need to try and find opportunities to really ensure that you have these positive interactions when these speed bumps occur, or even before they occur. It doesn't. There's nothing that says that you need to rectify what I'm calling a speed bump, a negative interaction, with 5 positive interactions. Sometimes those, well, not sometimes, it should be that those 5 positive interactions should be on the front end. Makes it that much easier on the front end if you have those positive interactions. When the speed bump comes along, it's going to help things move along that much quicker, if you will.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.